Ruby.
Want me to do one?
We all know Josh Halpern, of course. Artist and activist. He's graduating this spring in the Integral Ecology Tract Masters, where he studied transforming relationships with home. He has a number of exciting creative projects in the works post-graduation, which you can find at outsidejosh.com. Also, he is the first person I met in PCC.
That's true. Yeah.
I was finding a place
I do that. I'm good at that.
to live. He's totally good at that. And he welcomed me into his home. And we talked all things PCC, so he's uniquely positioned to talk about home. Indigenoises, local sounds of kinship lost and found. Josh Halpern.
Indigenoises, yeah! So I'll give you guys just a little quick background on why this emerged. We had a Cosmology of Love conference 2 weeks ago, and during my talk I had everybody come to the window and look out on the landscape over to Potrero Hill over there and imagine the marsh that used to creep through this area and how the landscape has transformed. And watching the video again, I realized I was tripping up over the names of the indigenous tribes that were here, and I thought I actually need to sort of do better than that. So that sparked this whole idea of what we're going to go through today. So I can introduce myself somewhat elaborately, and I'm going to, and then I'm going to offer space for other people to too. And the first person I saw do this was Kirsten Lozon. My name is Joshua Christopher Halpern. I've also been called Healing Spring and View. And I was born at the confluence of the Madawan and the Wapawag in central New Jersey to Cynthia Leslie Perwin, who, that's my mother. Her father was Dick Perwin, and her mother was Loretta Burney, and she was born in Miami Beach, Florida. And then my father, Manfred Halpern, his parents were Jacob Halpern and Edith Aaron, and he was born in Mittweida, Germany. And yeah, if anybody else wants to do a round of those, I'm happy to hear who we have in the room with us today. Anybody? Want to do one? Shan?
I'm Shannon Lynn Stern.
Nice to meet you.
And I was born a half an hour south of Boston, Massachusetts, to James Christopher Stearns and Sarah Lynn Sherlock. Both of whose lineages go back to England and the Mayflower.
America.
Yeah. True. Blooded revolutionaries and oppressors. So, yeah, holding the polarities in my DNA.
Mm-hmm. Anybody else? Thanks. Yeah, okay.
I'll introduce myself.
Sure.
My name is Carrie Lynn Kapadia Risher. I was born Carrie Lynn Kapadia. I've also been known as Rufus and Fernwood. I was born in Detroit, Michigan.
Yeah.
To Mahendra Amritlal Kapadia and Linda Ann Larkin Kapadia. My father was born in Ahmedabad, India, Gujarat, to a Jain family. I don't even know my grandmother's name. Never met her. His father was Amritlal Kapadia, and my mother's parents were William Larkin and Virginia Wood Larkin. And my mother was born in South Carolina. And I appreciate this exercise.
Good, thanks. Well, in the interest of time, we'll press forward, but I'm always happy to hear people. It's good to share, because we bring all of those people with us, of course, everywhere we go. So the next thing I want to do is I'm calling Giving Breath to Lost Locations. So there are over 50 villages that existed here before Europeans arrived. There's a whole community, a whole huge network of language families and villages that flourished. I don't know a ton. I only moved out here 3 years ago, so I'm just catching up on my own knowledge of the history here. But some things that we know about them, they didn't consider themselves a single coherent group. They traded, they conducted the ceremony together, they intermarried. The Yelamu, who lived here in San Francisco, where we are now, intermarried a lot with the, and I'm just going to do my best to pronounce, they're anglicized phonetic approximations of the original names anyway, so my sense is, our best versions of giving breath to these are nonetheless probably worth doing, even if we're not getting the pronunciation quite proper. So the Yelamu here and the Huchian Chechenyo, from what are now Oakland, they intermarried a lot together. There were over 50 distinct groups. They averaged 50 to 500, so a few hundred members in each of them. People started living here around 4000 BCE. There were 20,000 in 1770 when Europeans arrived, and under 1,000 by 1850, so less than 80 years later. The shell mounds that they constructed over generations and generations, the one in Emeryville was over 60 feet high. Those were all paved over by the beginning of last century. Some of the folklore and creation myths with the Ohlone have to do with Mount Diablo. They had a coyote trickster spirit that was in relationship with eagle and hummingbird, and apparently there's a creation myth where the whole world was covered entirely in water, something we couldn't imagine. And then I guess there was a single peak, down in Big Sur, if you're from the southern groups, and Diablo up here, on which coyote and hummingbird and eagle stood, and then humans were descended from the coyote. So there's still a few thousand people today who are identifying themselves from this heritage. They're petitioning the government for tribal recognition, and the past several years they've been conducting classes in some of the original languages to prevent them from disappearing entirely. Two other names that are growing in popularity besides the Ohlone and the Costanoans, which is a sort of both Spanish and anglicized words, are Muwekma in the north and Ama in the south, which are the people's word for people. So there's attempts to have those words come back. And what I wanted to do, and I was going to print out this list, but I didn't, is there's all these villages nearby, and what I wanted to do was have you guys pick some off of the list, just any of the words that appeal to you, and call them out, give them breath. So I'll start. Chuchui, which is right near where Theo and Clara live, I think now, that village, on Mission in 15th and Cap Street. That's where that was. Okay, anybody else? Give me some.
Gulchis.
Good. Okay.
Talk.
Oh, good job. Okay, what else?
River.
Okay. Some more.
Alsamo.
Oh, okay. Petlunuk. Mutaja. Is that one near? There's a few near where you live, I think. Okay. Yeah. What else?
Opurume.
Furume. Oh, there's some over in the East Bay over here. Any of those appeal to you guys?
Karkin.
What else?
So'a'oam.
So'a'oam. Okay.
Helnan.
Helnan. Okay. Anyone want to go south or north? Chatumu. That's a good one. Okay. These are, these were gone fast. They had existed for thousands of years, and then everybody was brought into the missions, and the villages collapsed, and then all these diseases went through, and all these quick shifts. I also wanted to open up space here if anybody's holding a lost location in their own cosmology, in their own stories that they would want to breathe into name here. That's welcome as well. Princeton for me is sort of a bit lost because we moved out of my house there growing up about 2 years ago. Okay. Anybody? Yeah. Any others? Okay. So moving on, we consider ourselves today to be part of some tribes, large and small. PCC is one of them. Maybe the Cosmocopia Burning Man camp is one of them. Do you guys have any others? Any tribes that you consider yourself a part of? You could name them here as well.
Ballard.
Okay. Great.
Shambhala warriors.
Good. That's a good one. Tribes maybe you were a part of previous times in your life. Whole Earth Center, a great place I worked for a few years. Naming them is quite something. It allows us to situate ourselves. Okay, so moving on. I'm trying to cover some ground here. As you see, we're about to dive into under the water. So we tend to think of, and you can just read along with minutes. We tend to think of our home in the bay primarily via above ground neighborhoods, but there's a whole world under the water. We share the bay with dozens of dolphins, whales, different kinds, porpoises, each with their own unique purpose in life. Generous guys. In 2012, scientists at the Sarasota Dolphin Research Program realized that dolphin clicks and whistles are often used as names between individual dolphins in the same pod as they navigate together the murky waters off of our shores. Let me see if I can find this.
What? Out in the pristine waters of Sarasota
Can you hear
Bay,
it?
scientists from Hope Marine Laboratory have spent the past 30 years studying the local residents, bottlenose dolphins, and they noticed something interesting. These mammals would whistle to each other, similar to this. And they found these were not random noises.
These whistles actually turn out to be names. They're abstract names, which is just unheard of in the animal kingdom beyond people.
Dr. Randall Wells is a local researcher who's been studying dolphins in Sarasota Bay since the 70s. This new report was just released a few weeks ago. The scientists discovered bottlenose dolphins come up with their own names when they're very young.
These animals will call another individual's name to get their attention. So they not only understand they have an identity, but they understand the other animal's identity, and they use that for communication.
Okay.
Thrilling.
Cool. Right?
Yeah.
So we're just sort of realizing that, oh yeah, that might actually be what's happening. There might be some actually really amazing communications there. It's dark. A sophisticated sonar system can go a long way in murky waters. The dolphin noises, these can be heard up to 12 miles away.
Wow.
So think about, like, San Francisco itself is only 7 miles by 7 miles, so extending way out into the bay. And they're so powerful, these vibrations that they produce, they can stun prey in front of them. In fact, a dolphin's brain is apparently larger than humans, and as far as we can tell, it's mostly devoted to acoustic processing. So imagine the soundscape that these guys inhabit. Also worth mentioning is it's become quite loud under the water with all of our machines and all the stuff that humans have going on in there, and this can cause dolphins to start emulating some of the more cutthroat behaviors of the people above land. I can mention the increase in harbor porpoise carcasses that have shown up in the last couple of years because the bottlenose dolphins and the harbor porpoises, their regions have shifted because of climate, so they're suddenly in competing waters. And I was wondering if the dolphin knows the porpoise's name as he smacks him with his gallbladers. So, before we move on to the next thing, I want you to turn to your neighbors and introduce yourselves via whistles and clicks. Good? Good? Nice. Oh. Okay, so, it sounds like a whole pod. Down there. Okay, so, also, last year, they discovered some communication between some of the other neighbors that we share space with, the plant world. So, researchers in Australia discovered that they could record little tapping noises between corn saplings of the roots underground. And they realized that if they put the roots in water, and they played a similar sound at the same frequency, the roots would move towards that sound.
What?
So, I mean, and it makes sense because plants are already responding to light, to water. They can communicate via biochemical exchanges across forests. If there's a threat on one side of the forest, they can let people know on the other side, let trees know and plants know on the other side. They communicate through mycological mushroom networks. So why not through sounds? And I was thinking, we have these huge, if these little baby corn plants are communicating, then these huge sequoia elders whose roots connect underground and whose canopies connect up at the top of the trees, if they probably have something tails to tap out as well. So just want to expand. So our next, the earth chirp that they recorded last year. This is something that they've known for a while, but because of the NASA satellite that was able to sort of get right in there, it was able to clearly record the chirp of the Earth. This is the radio waves given off by the Earth's magnetosphere as it travels through space. Energetic particles whipped around by Earth's radiation belts. These would be hearable to the naked ear if you could take your helmet off in space, but because you can't do that, because your head will explode, you have to use sensitive equipment. So I will play, this is an article about Prince Charles talking to plants. This, look, see, that's what's going on.
Wow.
Ooh, and then this, yeah. That's this one. I don't know if I can make it big in this thing, but you'll get it. Oh, yeah, here.
Oh my God, it's beautiful.
Josh, can you explain what that is again?
Yeah.
That is the part of, it's radio waves. It's like, you know.
I think I do. It's
Go ahead, go for
the same
it.
thing as air glow. So there's like ionic wind going on in space all the time. Like a lot of it's coming from the sun, from solar
I'm going to
radiation.
play it again while you're talking.
And so you have charged particles, ions, that come into the Earth's orbit, and then you have like a magnetic field around the Earth that looks like that shape. So that's like the south magnetic pole and the north magnetic pole, where the lines or arcs hit the Earth. So like when you see like aurora borealis, that's also caused by these charged particles that kind of get swept into the magnetic field lines, and then the charged particles can't get past the magnetic field line. So they spiral. Like if this is a magnetic field line, the charged particle will spiral around it, and then it'll come into the Earth's atmosphere and hit the Earth's atmosphere at the south and north magnetic poles. So I'm assuming that sound is, these charged particles hitting the Earth's atmosphere.
Because I thought sound couldn't exist in space.
It can't. It's probably, so yeah, sound wouldn't exist as sound, but this is probably just a interpretation of the
Well, it's radio waves, so you
vibrations
could pick it up. I think that
I think that's a bit of a fallacy.
You can't hear it.
Apparently you could
You
hear
can't
it.
air in the
Yeah, we
medium.
can't hear it.
There's
how you find
vibrations.
sound.
Yeah.
Right.
You know what's amazing to me is how much it sounds like the call of so many creatures, and it makes you think like, do birds, is the reason why they have a tendency towards that sound or something is because of the planet that we've come from. It's just amazing.
So I forgot to ask us to introduce ourselves through root tapping. But you can if you want, but I was also going to suggest introduce yourself as if you were a planet traveling through space, what noise would you make? So do that for a second. I will guide us through.
Okay.
Nice to meet you.
So the reason we need to introduce ourselves in space is because we actually have a lot of neighbors in space too. This is our little solar system, right, with our normal planets and then a couple outliers, and then this is our sun. And our nearest solar neighbors, the nearest suns to us in the galaxy. Anybody want to read out some of those? Can you see them?
Apollo.
GF 436.
Good.
There's that GF.
Is that Arcturus?
Virgin?
Sirius. Vega's
Are you
one.
serious?
Are
Aldebaran.
you serious? You can't be serious. Here's where we are in the galaxy. Here's where our galaxy is in relationship to the local cluster. Anybody want to read out some of those? Sculptor dwarf.
Sexton's dwarf.
Triangulum galaxy. That's
Andromeda.
and so there's our big one and that one, and those are the two main ones. And then there's all these satellite galaxies. There's a bunch of them.
From our perspective.
Pegasus dwarf.
And then here's our little local galactic group.
Wow.
All the other clusters. The Fornax cluster, the Ursa Major groups, right, and the Pavo Indus supercluster, and the Coma supercluster. This is like all the superclusters, and then this apparently is like where we fit in. And I can't scroll over that one. There it is. That's like in the middle of the universe. And there's a lot. I was going to get into some of the stranger named expressions that we have for certain spaces or ideas in the universe. This local group that we call this enormous, vast collection of galaxies, the local group. It's kind of a strange way to call them. The wimps and machos, these are two elements we think might be part of what makes up dark matter. Machos are like large things, wimps are small things, but it's such, seems like an odd way of thinking about it. So what is it? The zone of avoidance. What would you guys think that is? Zone of avoidance in the universe.
Like a black hole.
It would be worth avoiding. Apparently, it's the part of the night sky obscured by the Milky Way, so you can't see because there's so much there.
Oh, wow.
You can't actually know. It's like 10%, 15% that we have no idea what's on the other side of it because you can't tell what's closer or what's further. Also, the Great Attractor, which is this huge gravitational anomaly in deep space that everything is a little attracted to, and we don't know what the hell it is. And then I was going to end, we probably have a couple of 3 minutes left. I was going to end with a little song about some of these places. Just lay down a quick beat, and if you guys have any places that you wanted to put in the song. Here, I'll do something like this. I don't know, I'll just make it up. Oh yeah.
No, not with that. Okay. I don't know. Gong 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 gong. So
then, put some names, some places into this song as you come along. You got one? Anywhere. Here.
Habibi.
Oh, that's good. Okay. Yeah.
Oakland.
That's good. Laura.
Charleston.
Okay. Fort Lauderdale.
El Centro.
Okay. Yourself?
Canangra.
Canangra. Matt, shout it.
Frisco.
Frisco. Yourself?
Boston.
Boston.
Gneeta.
Gneeta?
Yeah.
Give me some. Pull in the thing.
McKinney, Texas.
That's good.
Ah!
Milky Way. Claire.
St. Boys.
Where's it? Oh, of course. Okay. South Pole.
Yeah.
Rocky River. Where's that?
Ohio.
Oh. Shannon. Massachusetts. That's good. Okay, that's our song.
Turn it up.
Okay, great. Yeah, good song.
Yeah.
Okay. Anyone else? Yeah. Good song.
Get some dolphin
Dolphin noises. And have root tapping. Okay.
Jupiter.
Oh, Jupiter. Yeah. And our hearts. Okay.
Aww.
And we fall on our homes. Yeah.